Welcome everyone to another episode of the Rankings video. I am your host, Slasher Scotty, and boy do I have a surprise for you. Doesn't that sound a little familiar? Oh, that's right, that's what I say during my interviews. Check them out, sorry, cheap plug. But now let's get into some of the rankings of something a little different here on Slasher Scotty. We are about to rank the top 13 final girls of the Friday the 13th franchise. Now you're probably thinking to myself, did you put 13 final girls because Friday the 13th? That's ironic, but no, that's not the reason. You might be thinking, but there's only 12 movies in the Friday the 13th franchise. How is there 13 final girls? One of the movies has 2 final girls, and we're going to count them down as well. And they're not going to be counted down together, they're their own people. So that's right, we are going to count down the 13 Friday the 13th final girls. But before we do, of course, I gotta get into my little spiel and tell you to, subscribe to my channel. Give me some love and subscribe. You know you want to, why not do it? And of course, hit the bell notification icon. Come on, people. You want to get updated when I upload my videos, right? And to do that, you got to hit that icon. So do it and you'll get all of my videos straight to your email, straight to your inbox, wherever you get them. And of course, like the video if you like what you saw. And obviously, comment if your rankings differ from mine. I know we're different people, so I'm sure they're not going to be the same exact order. So, comment. Tell me why they're different than mine. Why not? But yeah, so that's right. Friday the 13th. Everybody knows this film is simply about, teenage camp counselors going to Camp Crystal Lake to party, do drugs, drink, have sex, gratuitous nudity, all of that fun stuff. That's what this, franchise is about. And of course, the hockey mask killer Jason Voorhees, who comes out and about and starts slashing and... Slashing? I can't believe I just said that. But anyways, slashing his prey that are trespassing upon the camp. So we're going to count down 13 of the badass girls that weren't his victims, and they were the ones that ended up kicking his ass. And that's what we're going to do here. And I cannot wait until we get into ranking these final girls. It's going to be exciting. So let's follow me into the other studio and let's count down the final girls. I, for one, am not a final girl. I'm a final guy, right? So I am going to have my chase scene into the other studio. So see you there. Woohoo! Oh! Ooh, that's right. Oh, that was my chase scene. Whew, I think I got away from Jason for now. I don't think I'm going to be safe for long though, but hopefully I'll be safe enough to do these, ranking videos before Jason catches up to me again. But anyways, number 13 on the rankings is Rowan LaFonte from Jason X. That's right, Rowan, she had the potential to be an amazing final girl and to end Jason once and for all. But she didn't. She was good up until, before they went to the future when she froze Jason as well as herself. But then Jason got unfrozen, she got unfrozen, and she really didn't do anything else after that. It wasn't really her. It was another final girl in this movie that I will be counting down a little later. That really was the one that put her foot up Jason's ass, so to speak. But yeah, I honestly don't think that Rowan was that good of a final girl. She really didn't do much or offer much to this film other than freezing Jason to set the plot point all the way to the year of 2455. Number 12 on the ranking is Whitney Miller from the 2009 reboot of Friday the 13th. Now, Whitney was thought to have been killed by both the audience and her on-screen brother Clay, played by Supernatural star Jared Padalecki. Now, she was, Jason came after her with a machete, and it looked like he got her rather well, that she was, done for. But it turned out that he actually kidnapped her and kept her in underground tunnels underneath Camp Crystal Lake. Why? Well, because she resembles his dead mother, who he saw get decapitated, as a boy. So, ultimately, Whitney, she isn't my favorite final girl. I don't think she's really... she is a final girl, but she's not the best one out there. She had a lot of help from her brother, Clay, and she spent a lot of the, 90% of the movie kidnapped, chained to underground. So she didn't really do anything till near the end. Like, she wasn't really, a big factor of everything. And then, of course, she had that horrible line, Jason, say hello to mommy. In hell. That was pathetic. That was cringeworthy to say the least. But, I mean, ultimately, she wasn't the greatest final girl out there, and I think she deserves to be where she is ranked, don't you? Number 11 on the ranking is Jessica Kimball from Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday. Now, first and foremost, Jessica is the final girl of a film that many people don't like, and they usually skip when they're binging the Friday the 13th films. Secondly, she is a bitch, plain and simple. I mean, please. And third, and lastly, she keeps her baby away from its father. And all of those traits of a character are just things that a final girl really shouldn't have. And, I mean, you really don't root for her, so to speak. You kind of hope she gets killed, you know what I mean? And then, I mean, how she gets rid of... She is the final girl, obviously. She gets rid of Jason by stabbing him with the magical enchanted dagger right in his heart. And then she kicks it even further into his black heart, which, you know, has all these magical properties, these entities, and all this stuff. And she ends up sending Jason straight to hell, where he meets horror icon, slasher icon, Freddy Krueger. Number 10 on the rankings is Rene Wickham from Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. So, Rene, well, she has a boyfriend, Sean. You know, she's a teenager that's going on this class trip to New York City, taking a cruise and whatnot. Now, she is the final girl, and she's one of the original 8 final girls, if you want to talk about the top, the original 8s of the films. But ultimately, Rene Wickham, I mean, she's part of a film in the franchise that isn't really that good. And also, on top of that, she is the reason her teacher, Colleen Van Dusen, is killed when she sees a childlike version of Jason in the middle of the street of New York City and drives into him, which she wasn't really there, and gets her killed when the car blows up. She also, gets in fights with her uncle, Charles McCulloch, one of the head teachers on the trip, and she's even kidnapped by thugs in New York City and about to be raped and drugged before Jason came to the rescue, of course. But ultimately, Rene isn't the greatest final girl. Now, she does escape with Sean after being chased throughout New York City by Jason into the sewers. And then she ends up using toxic waste to basically turn Jason into a Muppet. And then he ends up melting or whatever and turns back into a boy, and the toxic waste, it's a mess. I mean, come on. Overall, she's a final girl. Not my favorite, not many other people's favorites, and ultimately has to be at the bottom of this list. Number 9 is KM14, the second final girl from Jason X. That's right, Jason X doesn't have one, but 2 final girls, as I stated earlier. Now, KM14, she is an android. She's the only final girl in the franchise of Friday the 13th that is an android. That's badass. She certainly is a badass. And she definitely kicked ass and took names. She bested Jason by basically using her android skills and her, supercharging machine guns to end up kicking Jason and end up basically killing him. But it turns out that the nanobots ended up reanimating Jason into Uber Jason! That's right, he turned into Uber Jason. And then, thanks to KM, Jason was aborted into the atmosphere, and he was charging back at the ship, but Sergeant Brodsky ended up intercepting Jason out into the atmosphere, and they end up descending into the Earth's luscious green life as a blaze of fire. Number 8 on this ranking is Pam Roberts from Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning. Now, everybody's thinking, well, Pam, she's one of the original final girls, and that she is, but it doesn't mean she has to be high on the rankings. I absolutely love Melanie Kinnaman, but Pam Roberts as a character, she ultimately she was a good final girl, but she wasn't, on her own, so to speak, nor half of the final girl, but still. Pam Roberts, she was the assistant at Pinehurst Halfway House to Dr. Matthew Letter. Ultimately, Pam had Reggie the Reckless and Tommy Jarvis, as an adult, to help her. They were helping her out. And she did literally kill Jason Voorhees. Why? Because this Jason Voorhees wasn't Jason at all. It was paramedic Roy Burns. So Pam would be higher on the list if she did it on her own or with less help, and if she actually battled Jason himself, which she had not. So ultimately, Pam Roberts, I'm sorry, but you don't have to be high on this list because of that reason alone. Number 7 is Megan Garris from Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. Now I know, Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives is ultimately almost everyone's favorite installment of the franchise. And I could agree with you there. You know, I really enjoy this film in the franchise. Ultimately, Megan, she did a good job stopping Jason. I'll give her credit where credit is due. Ultimately, Tommy comes into her life. Tommy is the reason why Jason was reanimated as a zombie of sorts, and if it wasn't for Tommy Jarvis, everybody that died from this movie onward wouldn't have been killed. Hell, there wouldn't even be a movie. But let's put it this way: Tommy figured out the way to stop Jason is to send him back to his final resting place. That's right, tie him down to the bottom of Camp Crystal Lake, as he knows it as. This camp in this movie is called Camp Forest Green. Yes, that's right, they renamed the camp because they thought that's the way to stop Jason from coming back. Anyways, Tommy ended up trapping Jason down there, but Jason ended up taking Tommy down with him. Tommy drowned, and Megan ended up feeling like she had to be the hero, and she was. She's the final girl after all. So she ended up coming to Tommy's rescue. She ended up using the motorboat on the motor from the motorboat and snapped it right into Jason's neck, breaking his neck at the bottom of the lake. She then rescued Tommy, did CPR, mouth to mouth. He came to, and ultimately they lived happily ever after, so to speak. But yes, that's right, Megan Garris rescued Tommy Jarvis, and I have to mention this as well, this is the only film in the franchise without nudity and with children at the camp. But that's right, Megan, she was a good final girl, but ultimately there were a lot more that were better, in my honest opinion, that actually put up a fight against Jason. Number 6 is Laurie Campbell from Freddy vs. Jason. That's right, the crossover film between two iconic slashers, Freddy Krueger and, you guessed it, Jason Voorhees. Now, Laurie Campbell, along with final guy Will Rollins, they're lovers and they were separated at some point or whatever, and ultimately Freddy Krueger is too weak to kill anybody, so he ends up bringing Jason up from hell to do his bidding for him to make people fear again. And then from there, we end up having Laurie trying to, she's not your typical final girl. She's got a hell of a lot worse than your other final girls do, because she has 2 slashers to kill. She has Freddy and Jason. That is hard, and that's too much to handle. I mean, how can you overcome that? But Laurie did it. And how did she do it? Well, let's put it this way. We had Jason ended up stabbing Freddy with his own glove and then Jason fell into the lake. Then Laurie had the machete, and she screams at Freddy, quoting him, "Welcome to my world, bitch!" And then she decapitates him. And then Freddy falls into the lake. And then, of course, they live happily ever after, yada, yada, yada. And then, of course, we see the next morning, Jason with Freddy's severed head coming out of the lake. Jason survives, Freddy winks and laughs. And then, it's kind of like, maybe there isn't a winner, it's a draw. But either way, that's why Laurie is this low on the list instead of higher, despite facing 2 evil slashers. And that's because she didn't really kill anybody, because Freddy's winking and laughing, Jason's walking and, carrying Freddy's severed head. So ultimately, Laurie can't get the credit of defeating one or the other because Freddy and Jason are still a danger. Number 5 on the ranking is Tina Shepard from Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood. That's right, Tina is not your typical final girl, and that seems like a quote I've been saying a lot in this ranking. However, it's true. Tina has special powers. She has telekinesis, telekinetic powers, a la Carrie. That's right. This is supposed to be originally the Freddy vs. Jason installment that was in developmental hell for quite a number of years. So we ended up getting Jason versus Carrie, aka Tina Shepard. Tina, she killed her father and discovered these powers as a girl. She ended up killing her father with these powers, ended up drowning him after she seen him drunk and abusing her mother. And then she felt guilty. So years later, she ended up getting help back at Camp Crystal Lake, where it all started by Bad News Cruz, Dr. Cruz. That's right, Bernie from Weekend at Bernie's, Terry Kaiser, the actor Terry Kaiser. But anyways, yeah, Tina ended up getting help from him. But he had his own agenda. In the end, we have Tina who finds all of the people that were at a birthday party next door getting murdered. And then we have, of course, her mother and Dr. Cruz end up getting killed as well. Now it's down to Tina, Nick, who I really don't care for as the final guy, who's more used for a love interest, but albeit, we're not counting him because this isn't a final guys ranking. Anyways, we have Tina, who ended up, battling it off against Jason. She did everything she could. Hit him with lamps, threw a flower pot at his head. She ended up setting him on fire, which blew up the house, which I think should have been the ending of the film to begin with. But ultimately, Jason, teleporting, ended up going on the dock where they end up escaping the burning house and ended up shoving Nick into the canoe, and he went after Tina. But Tina used her telekinesis one last time to resurrect her father, to ultimately tie Jason with chains and trap him down at the bottom of Camp Crystal Lake, which she tried to do earlier in the movie, was resurrect her father, but ended up resurrecting Jason. So why not use that symbolism to bring her father back at the end instead of the beginning, right? So ultimately, Tina, badass final girl, deserves to be near the middle of this list. Number 4 is Chris Higgins from Friday the 13th, Part 3. That's right, she is the first and only final girl to be in 3D. And Chris would have been higher because she is a true badass. She actually put it up to Jason, and she really didn't have any help to an extent. She did have Ollie distracting Jason at the end, and Jason ended up dispatching of him rather quickly, and then she ended up using the axe to kill Jason once and for all, until he came back, of course, in the 4th film. But Chris would have been higher on this list if she wasn't such a prude, especially to jokester Shelley, who ultimately just wanted to be liked, although his jokes were in poor taste, if I must be honest. But ultimately, I think that it would have been really cool if we had Debbie, played by Tracy Savage, as the final girl, because it would have been the first and only pregnant final girl in the franchise. But instead, they killed her off while she was pregnant, and they really didn't do anything with that storyline. It was kind of like, we mentioned her being pregnant, then we kill her. Oh boy, they just killed a pregnant girl. Body count of an unborn infant, I don't get it. They didn't really do anything with it. They mentioned one line about it, and then that was it. It was kind of forgotten about. But ultimately, like I said, Chris put a fight to Jason. She did a lot to him, and she ended up using that axe to take him down. And she took advantage of that distraction by Ali. Ultimately, she didn't have much help. Only that distraction from Ali, which was enough and could have been the reason why she could have gotten killed if he didn't distract Jason. But I think, Chris did a great job at what she did, and I think that she deserves to be in the top 5 of this final ranking at number 4. Number 3, that's right, we're in the top 3 of the rankings, is Trish Jarvis from Friday the 13th, Part 4, the final chapter. Now Trish, she had to be a badass, fighting machine. She had to be. Why? Because she didn't just have to save herself from Jason. She had to protect her 10-year-old little brother, Tommy Jarvis, in the process. And this is the film that literally killed Jason off. And yes, they did kill Jason off, because he wasn't back in Part 5, and he did return in Part 6, only after being reanimated by a lightning rod and a lightning strike, basically turning him into a zombie. But yes, Jason as human form was killed in this film. And that was thanks to Tommy and Trish, of course. But Trish ended up having her, her mother was killed, and finding a bunch of dead bodies of the neighbors, and seeing Rob literally get murdered, screaming, "Help me! They're killing me! Help me!" And yeah, ultimately, Trish and Tommy put an end to Jason for good, which is what has to make her in the top 3. But she is, I personally like Trish, Jarvis. I thought she was good. I wish she would have came back, for another film, but she didn't. But this character, this final girl, she definitely had a lot going for her, especially having to protect her little brother Tommy, who was the ultimate end-all and be-all to Jason Voorhees. Number 2 is Alice Hardy from Friday the 13th, the original in 1980. Now, you're thinking, but isn't she also in part 2? Why didn't you mention her in part 2? That's right. That's why she's not number 1 on this list. She would have been number 1 because she is probably the only final girl that had no help, zero help of combating the killer. First off, she didn't have to face Jason Voorhees. She faced his mother, Miss Pamela Voorhees. And she was the only survivor. There was no help for Alice Hardy. She would have been jam-packed number 1 on this list. But she isn't. Why? I'm about to tell you. She decapitated Mrs. Voorhees, and she came back to the sequel. Adrienne King was actually stalked by a real-life stalker. And she was terrified to come back to the franchise. But they wanted her to come back for a small role, so they brought her back. And she had a smaller role, and she was killed off rather quickly by Jason Voorhees himself. So, that's why she's not number 1, because she went from final girl in the first movie to immediately being dispatched in the second right away at the start of the film. Now, I'm not blaming her, because Adrienne King obviously was scared from that traumatic event, and I don't blame her for not wanting to come back. However, for her character's sake, that's why she's not number 1 as the final girl, but is number 2. But there is one more left. And you have to agree with me on who number 1 is. I mean, a lot of people say Alice, some people say the person that I have ranked. You probably know who it is because there's only one left. So let's go over and check it out, right? The number 1 spot on the final girls of Friday the 13th rankings belongs to Ginny Field from Friday the 13th, Part 2. That's right, Ginny Field is the number 1 final girl on my rankings. And here's why. She is a smart cookie. Yes, she had help from Paul, whose fate was, at the end of the film was left unknown. But Ginny is a smart motherfudger. She ended up tricking Jason Voorhees. When she encountered him, she ended up running and coming across Jason's shack in the woods. And then she ended up, in the beginning of the film, they end up using, hinting at her major in college, which was child psychology. So they used that to her advantage at her character trait at the end of the movie to trick Jason. Now let's put it this way. Jason Voorhees, he is a grown man, but he has, a child's mind, a mind like a child, right? So she used her child psychology when she came across Mrs. Voorhees' severed head, and of course the corpses of Terry, Deputy Winslow, and of course the skeletal remains of Alice Hardy. And then she put on the sweater that was at the shrine of Jason's mother's head, put the sweater on, and then she got the machete, and she ended up using the machete to get Jason when Paul came to the rescue. However, Ginny used this child psychology to pretend that she was Jason's mother while wearing the sweater, to trick Jason, to stall him, to buy some time. Jason, mother is talking to you. That's my good boy, Jason. Jason, mother is talking to you. That's a good boy, Jason. That's right, I just tricked you too. I just pulled my child psychology. But that's right. Jason ultimately saw through the ruse, and he ended up seeing Ginny go into a strike. Then Paul came to the rescue. Ginny used the machete, got him right into the shoulder. That was it for Jason until, of course, part 3. And ultimately, Ginny survived. And then Jason, of course, as a hillbilly, it looked like, came crashing through the window. Ginny's fine. She's getting wheeled out on a stretcher to the ambulance, asking, "Paul, where's Paul?" Remember, Paul, someone was in that fucking room! You see what I did there? But yeah, Paul's fate is left unknown. So ultimately, Ginny is number 1 on this ranking because she outsmarted Jason with her child psychology and what she was majoring in college. That's right, though. We just counted down the 10. Yes, not 10, 13. Sorry, this isn't the top 10. Go check those out too, by the way. The 13 of the final girls in the Friday the 13th films. This is awesome. This is so awesome. I cannot wait But how about we go into the other studio? I still haven't gotten any wind of Jason around, so thank God we got through these. Hopefully I can survive this, this whole video. And I think I will, because I don't think Jason's going to find me if he hasn't found me yet. So I'll see you back here. Meet me in the other studio, okay? And I'm going to go quick before Jason ends up coming into this studio, because I don't think he looked here yet since I've been here for a while. Okay? Alright, I don't see Jason here. I don't think he came here yet, so I'm gonna wrap this up really quick, alright? So I can get out of here, so I don't die. So first and foremost, like the video if you like what you saw, and leave a comment if you think Ginny Field shouldn't be number 1, but maybe number 4, or whatever the order they should be. If you don't agree, comment. Let me know. I want to know what you think. Of course, also, hit the bell notification icon. You want to get notified on my videos, so hit that notification icon. It takes 1 second, and keep updated when I post my videos. And of course, you want to smash that subscribe button. Get updated, show me some love. But that's right. So this is it. We ranked the 13 final girls of Friday the 13th, and boy, it couldn't feel any better. So I'm gonna get out of here because I don't want Jason to come and find me. So until next time, I'm Slasher Scotty. This has been the ranking of the top 13 final girls, and I'll see you next time, alright? So, I'm gonna go... I spoke too long, and my god, the music's playing. He's not, I have to find a way out of here. It's gotta be a short line. The only way is that way now. There he is. Oh my god, there he is. He's right at the door. He's right at the door. This isn't gonna end well, but I might not be a final girl, but god damn it, I'm a final guy, and this is my show! This is my show, motherfucker! Come on, come on!